Warning! This packing video is designed to get you prepared for your first jump course with Learn to Base Jump, where a qualified instructor will teach you to pack for your first base jump. Do not base jump any pack job from this video until you get the okay from your instructor on the course. Jumping a pack job from this video may result in serious injury or death. Hi everyone, my name's Chris McDougall, but everyone knows me as Doogs. I've been base jumping for 23 years and I have 4,200 jumps under my belt. But most importantly, I've never hit an object. This is largely due to my pack job. It's very simple and it's very efficient. It might not be the neatest and it might not be the fastest, but it gets the job done and has served me well for my entire 23-year base jumping career. So let's get to it. Welcome to the Learn to Base Jump packing video. Today we're going to show you how to pack a slider down base rig. You only need to know how to pack it. On the course, we're going to show you why we pack it the way we do. So let's begin. Lay your container down flat, keeping your risers symmetrical. To keep your container clean, place your stash bag underneath and clip around the risers. Place a sufficient packing weight on top of your container. Make sure your slider is tied down on the front risers only. Run your hands up the lines separately, the A and B lines, the C and D lines, and the brake lines. Separate the lines into your right hand. Flake the brake lines and place them to the right, still holding them with your right hand. Place the A and B lines into your left hand in between your fingers to keep them separated. Now stand in between your A and B lines and your C and D lines. Lay your canopy down gently. Lay the canopy down and separate your A and B lines with your left hand and your brake lines in your right hand. You should now have a well-flaked canopy ready to pack. When starting to flake the top skin, place yourself in the middle of the canopy. We will start with the B lines. With your B lines, grab your tabs from the 7th cell to the 1st cell in reverse order and get them all nice and tight and secure with a clamp. When placing the clamps, make sure they are in line with your lines, not tabs. Then you can repeat this for your C lines and D lines, but make sure you do the B lines first. It is easier to pack on carpet as the canopy and lines will not slide around. This can be a bit messy when learning, but over time it will become second nature. You can bring your gear back and do your A lines, clamping not on the edge of the nose but on the lines themselves where they come up. Make sure you count 7 cells every time. Once this is done, you can grab 3 cells either side of your center cell and wrap it around the cells on either side and lay it down flat on the ground so the canopy will be flying towards the ground. Now we are going to flake the top skin. Put your B's on your A's. Grab the 3 cells either side, flick them in until you feel the top skin and lay them down. C's on your B's, and D's on your C's. Throwing your brake lines over to keep everything symmetrical. Once the top skin is done, go down and clear the stabilizers, 3 either side, to make sure we don't have a line over. Then flake the bottom skin, basically the same as the top skin, but run up from the D lines to the C's, C's to the B's, and B's to the A's. Do it all on one side and then jump over and do it on the other side. Most importantly, just do your 3 cells. You don't want to be fighting with your center cell. Let that stay in the middle and you should be able to see the seams once you have done it as shown. Next, go up to the clamps and gently tighten, making sure to grab both the fabric and the clamps so you don't pull the clamp off. Tighten everything up starting with the A lines, working your way up to the D lines, and you'll see it's nice and neat and symmetrical. From this, if you have done a really good job, you can run your hands up in between the lines and get it nice and tight. If you like, you can give it a quick flake either side and make it nice and neat again, and then go up and tighten your clamps again. Once you have finished flaking, hold onto your D lines with a flat hand, pull your D clamp down to your lines and jiggle your brake lines down to the start of the stabilizers. Now we are going to set our brakes. Make sure you untwist your brake lines after each jump to avoid tension knots. There are 2 ways to set your brakes depending on whether you are slider up or slider down. For slider up, you set them like a normal skydiving canopy. For slider down, it is critical to make sure the lines are not through any rings or slider grommets. Neaten your slider between your risers to make it easier to put in your container. Then grab your brake line, put the white loop through it, then the white loop through the ring and your toggle through the white loop. It is very critical and you can check that it is done correctly by pulling it down to make sure it is locked tight. And remember, make sure you do exactly the same for the other side. Whether you want shallow or deep brake settings, make sure they are exactly the same because symmetry is what we want for this clean pack job. I like to use the mantra line, ring, toggle to make sure the brakes are set correctly every time. Once the brakes are done, go back up to the tail and put your hand underneath the brake lines and hold onto the D lines again. Flick the tail over to one side so we can flake the tail. Flaking the tail is very simple. Just do it as I am showing you here and take your time, flattening everything out as you go. Make sure you run the seam lines up vertical with the tail. Do the whole tail completely, and then you can flip it over and get it back to the symmetrical with the tail pocket showing. When the tail is done, you can go down to the risers and run your hands up the inside rear lines, which is your center C and D, and your brake lines, and you can put the tailgate on. If you are a slider up, this is where you would quarter your slider, just like you would in skydiving. Once the tailgate is done, go back to your clamps and pull everything nice and tight for the last time. Release your D-clamp slightly, pull your tail down and pull it over your lines and slider if you have one. We can then stow the lines. Pull up your packing weight and sit on your canopy facing towards your container. Lift the tail pocket up and put a locking stow in. About 2 inches is good. Double rubber band it if you need to, and then tuck that away. From here, we're going to free stow our lines, which is basically a figure 8 all the way up until your lines reach your risers. After you have stowed your lines and put your tail pocket on correctly, ensuring the bottom Velcro is very, very tight. Pull your clamps off nice and neatly. Flatten everything out. And then with one easy fold, flip everything over the top of your tail and put 2 clamps on, making sure they are even top and bottom. Repeat for the other side, making sure the tail and your clamps are nice and even, and flatten everything out once more. You can fold the stabilizers in on themselves, but this is purely cosmetic. To put everything in the container, neaten everything up with your risers and put your pull-up cord on. Then with a quick flick, slide the container under the lines and drop it in. Next, check either side and make sure the risers are nice and clear so that you have a nice flat pack job when it is on your back. Do a bit of a karate chop and flick your whole canopy over, exposing the nose that we did at the start. If you are slided down jumping, you want to expose the nose completely. So pull your clamp off and expose your nose. You can put your knees on there and then do the same on the other side. Then flick the remaining tail over and start closing your container. The most important thing when closing the container is to keep everything nice and tight and symmetrical, and keep control of it with your knees or elbows. Remember, every container is different. I like to do my top pin first so I get everything nice and neat and flat. And then do up each flap and put the closing pin in. Then turn it around and do the bottom pin. Muscle the remaining fabric into the bottom of the container evenly before closing the bottom pin. It's very important to keep everything nice and neat. It feels good on your back and it gives you a good feeling when you're on the edge about to jump. Make sure you double check that the bridle is routed correctly from the container to the top pin, to the bottom pin and to the BOC. With your bottom pin closed, turn the container over and neaten up all the corners and flaps. You can even kneel on your rig or stand on it to flatten it out and keep it nice and neat. Then we have the most important part, the pilot chute. When connecting a pilot chute, make sure the bridle goes through both holes. Then put your fingers through the bridle loop, grab the apex of the pilot chute and pull it all through, creating a lark's head knot. The way I do my pilot chute is called a mushroom burrito. It's very simple and effective, and it's the one I like to use the most. Untwisting your bridle, run your hand all the way up the mesh until you get to the fabric. Pull the fabric around, creating a mushroom shape, grab onto the apex and lay it on the ground. It's very simple from here. S-fold everything really neatly until you get to about 6 inches from the end between the bridle and the pin. This is the most critical part of the pack job because if your pilot chute doesn't work, your parachute will not open. Once the bridle has been S-folded all the way, wrap the mesh over the bridle, then pull the fabric over without rolling. Keep working it until you get a nice cylindrical shape to place into your BOC. Once you have your pilot chute in a neat cylindrical shape, make a superficial fold at the end to help you get it in the BOC and use your index finger to help push it into the BOC to keep it neat. And don't forget to count your tools. That's it, a simple pack job. Once you get it going, it should take only 15 to 20 minutes and practice makes perfect. So get out there and do a heap of pack jobs and it will save you tons of time in the long run so you can get more jumps. So that's the way I pack. I hope you like it. Do it safe, keep practicing, and enjoy your jumping.